Joining me right now, Democratic member of the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Krishnamoorthi. Congressman, thanks for coming in.
Hey, thank you so much.
You were briefed along with other members of the House, of course. Was there any mention of 4 embassies being targeted?
I would have to agree with Secretary Esper. I don't recall that, and I walked away with the feeling that I didn't have a who, what, when, where, how about any impending attack or imminent attack.
So I'm struck by this. As the days have continued, information has come out. There has been a clear dispute from Pompeo and the chief and the national security advisor, a dispute kind of between what they think was said during the briefings with House members and what I'm hearing from you and other members who were in the briefings. Is it the changing story and the lack of transparency with Congress that is the problem, or the nature of the threat? I ask that because if they had briefed you all after the fact with one consistent message, they didn't know where, they didn't know when, but they knew Soleimani was planning an attack and they knew it was going to happen, would you have been any more likely to support this strike?
Well, first of all, I think that it was both the lack of transparency as well as the nature of the threat, that there wasn't consistent information about on either of those fronts, and that's why you have 2 Republican senators, specifically Senator Lee, who basically castigated them and really laid into them for the lack of transparency and the shifting explanations for why Soleimani was killed. Now, why is this important? Well, the reason why it's so important is that the president is always authorized to act in the self-defense of our country when there's an imminent attack, okay? But he can't launch offensive hostilities and then go to a war. And we cannot have a war with Iran. That's something that my constituents overwhelmingly are against, and they're continuing to pour in their emails and phone calls and correspondence to that effect.
The New York Times has reported in its big kind of behind-the-scenes piece this weekend on the days leading up to the strike, something that is striking, that the president had impeachment on his mind when he made these decisions to move ahead with the strike. They write this: he told some associates that he wanted to preserve the support of Republican hawks in the Senate in the coming impeachment trial, naming Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas as an example, even though they had not spoken about Iran since before Christmas. If that is true, does that matter to you?
Well, if that is the motivation for the attack, that's absolutely a problem. And I also noticed that in a lot of his tweets, he would kind of mix up both the impeachment issue as well as the attack on Soleimani, which also raises questions and suspicions about what are the true motives behind that attack. We cannot go to war with Iran. And if you launch such an offensive hostility against or military action against the regime, then we get closer to the precipice. We are not in a peaceful state of affairs with Iran right now. It is not tenable. It is not something that we can be happy about. So we have to be very careful right now.
You've been on the short list of possible picks to be a House manager for the Senate impeachment trial. Do you know if those decisions have been made?
I have no idea.
If you're all expected to be voting on this as early as Wednesday, is the latest reporting. I even heard Senator Blumenthal say that he thinks that it's going to start midweek this week. Don't you think you guys need to know?
I really can't comment on any of this. I really have zero information about next steps with regard to this particular issue.
And what is your level of interest in being a House manager?
I really don't want to get into it. I know that Speaker Pelosi is going to assemble a fantastic team who knows the case and will be able to bring credit to the House.
The typically verbose Krishnamoorthi, very, very notably avoiding and dodging my questions on House managers. I'll take that as you are interested. The Speaker has said all along that the reason she was holding up the articles was to get McConnell to lay out the rules of the road for the Senate trial. She said that she wanted to know that it would be a fair trial. He has not laid that out, what the rules of the road would be. She has made clear, though, that this week you are moving ahead. So did McConnell successfully run out the clock, win this staring contest?
Well, I think the interesting thing is that when we began this whole conversation about the outlines of the trial, it appeared that McConnell wanted to have maybe a 2-day trial without any witnesses and any further information. But I think because of Speaker Pelosi, we are now talking about witnesses. And, we've kind of shone a light on this particular issue, and the American people want it.
But you're no likely to have, you have no more guarantee of witnesses than you did 3 weeks ago.
You're correct. There's just no guarantees about what happens in the Senate anymore. And I think that in this particular case, we'll have to see how things unfold.
Congressman, thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you so much.